Now, the rest of the story.
Alright, welcome back. A little work in action. Well, this job overall was just at 40 minutes long. I just set my camera up and let it run thanks to that heavy-duty magnet mount and the really bright light that I have with it too. So what I'm actually doing is replacing these plates for the PTO slip, clutch, and the round baler. This is the second time I've done this job in the years that we've had the baler. The first time was, I want to say it was like the first year or two that we had the baler, so I mean it was well worn before we even had gotten it. I mean, this baler needed a lot of attention when we first bought it, and I'm pretty happy, pretty proud to say that this machine works really nice now. I actually know I can depend on it. I was just telling my friend last night, as you guys all know, it's my friend Ryan. I got the net wrap pretty well figured out on the back of this baler to actually run perfect 100% of the time. All it really took, believe it or not, was some plastic and some cardboard. I know all balers are different. I mean, these are on the net wrap is on the back of the baler on these, and you're not 100% certain that it's working properly, but the monitor is pretty good at going off and warning you that something's not right, at least before you dump the bale. The rolls of net wrap are actually, I don't know if it's just the deer rolls or what, but the net wrap is kind of offset on the cardboard roll that it's on. Granted, it might not be very much, but on my baler in particular, this 566, when the roll of net wrap is engaged, it actually hangs off the far right side of the roll a little too much, and that in turn wraps around the shaft on the end of the roll and causes the mess up or the misfire as far as the net wrap goes. So we ran this I think a year or two, and I changed these plates last time. I'm just doing the particle plates, the fiber plates. I'm not doing the metal ones. I'll show you how shined up these are. I mean, they're not terrible. The baler was still running the last day that we ran it. I was having some issues with the amount of material I was pulling into the baler. That's probably 100% of the reason why it was giving me issues. If I was at the time just doing regular alfalfa or regular field, row crop, ground, grass, whatever, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. The stuff I was making was, I think it was over 4 ton to the acre. I mean, I don't have an exact number on me right now. I never will, because I don't know how many acres are actually there. I just know that the bales being 1,600 plus pounds. What were they? 1,686 was the average, and that was across 14 bales that I took across the scale. So some were just under that 1,680, and I had a couple that were over 1,700. So the material was a big thing. Yes, I'm actually going to be looking at putting an acid applicator on this baler. Maybe not this year, just because they are calling for rain for the next 2 weeks. And it's getting to the point where going through and putting an applicator on the baler now, when we're actually looking at hopefully maybe possibly getting started on harvest here within the next 4 weeks, really don't want to put a bunch of money into putting an applicator on this baler when there is a chance, a slight possibility that we might not be making any more hay. And it's, I don't know, they're calling for a warmer than average October. I think that's what was the NOAA maps or something. I was just looking at them. We're in southwest Wisconsin here. We're in what seemed like the darker red range as far as how warm or how hot October was going to be. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. That'd be great if we don't have this rain pattern continue. If the rain keeps going like the last 2 years, all of my viewers have been watching since, let's just call it year one, season one, however we want to say it. The last 2 years, 17 and 18, we had wet falls. October was a really wet, miserable month. I mean, we get rained out for a couple years or a couple weeks at a time. This year, September has basically been raining. It's been raining in August. I don't know if it's going to dry out and it's going to give us a chance to make some hay yet. I mean, we probably got close to 200 bales we can easily make yet if the weather permits. I don't know how much that applicator would help later in the fall if we do make it late October, 1st November, and if it's more beneficial just to almost freeze make it, just have it be cold enough out at that point, which maybe it will, maybe it won't, and just make a bunch of frozen bales and just feed them up right away. So I already got this pulled apart. You saw the plates. I'm going to compare them to the new ones once we get done here. I'm going through and cleaning all the dirt and dust out. I've been really particular about going through and at the end of the days, or at least definitely before I unhook the round baler off the 76, I do go through and at least hit this baler with the air hose to get all the dirt and dust, any chaff that has built up. I go through, clean out all of the hay material around the rolls that may have been picked up, because I do not like running this machine, any machine really. Okay, and on the right you can see is the used one. You can see how it's all shined up compared to the new one. I don't know as far as the back plates, because I was asking my friend if I can really just flip those plates over because they're only shiny on the one side. I guess I'm going to have to look into it a little bit more to make sure that those steel plates, which I did go through and I cleaned them up, just to make sure that they're not sticking and it's actually not allowing it to spin at all. But I really didn't see that as an issue. I mean, that metal plate there, it is being reused. I don't think I replaced them the last time either, but they're very abrasive. It's a really fine, really aggressive milling or edge that it has on it. I mean, that's what allows it to grab onto those plates I'm replacing. And I was told that one's really evident. You can see it's really shined up. So these really wasn't a bad fix. I think it was $40 for both plates total. So cheap fix. The baler ran fine up into the last of the stuff that I ran through it. It's just, this is me being proactive, because I do know that we got to make 200 to 300 bales of corn fodder. I mean, last year we made 150 and it was tight. Ideally, we like to at least make 200, and we can just average it out and say about 250. And then that way, if we do have a longer winter, a wetter spring, we have plenty of bedding there to keep the cows dry, keep the calves dry. This baler, for how much we've done to it, I mean, it has been really reliable. You have the occasional bearing go bad. The roller belts, those are probably another season of corn fodder, and a couple of those are going to have to be replaced. But this really isn't that big of a deal to me. I'm really not afraid to put parts into machines to at least make sure that they're dependable when you go to work on them or when you go to use them. I don't have a shop. We don't have a shop. So, I mean, when we do work on stuff in the winter, which, like a lot of other people that do have decent places to work, have winter projects where they do this kind of stuff, we can to a certain degree, but it gets kind of old working in front of a heater all winter trying to stay warm. Like working on that semi my brother's last year, you work for about 15 minutes in 0-degree weather, and in that shed it's cold, so you're trying to wear gloves and everything else, and you're fumbling for everything. But 15 minutes of work, and then you have to go stand in front of the heater for 10 minutes to try to thaw back out. There's a reason why it took so long to work in that semi. So a shop, I know people have mentioned us building a shop. It's money. Not really have to sit and argue why we don't really have the finances or the funds to do it. I mean, between the farm markets, the grain markets, and just the fact that we're going into harvest, I mean, for me in particular, 90% of my income for the year actually is made in the last 3 months of the year. So, I mean, I work on a fixed budget, and I fix what needs to be fixed, and stuff that it doesn't really need to be addressed right now, I don't typically work on. You see I lost some washers right here. So that was about the trickiest part with this. You put the bolts through this back plate, and there's actually 3 washers that go in behind the plate. When it was all loosened up, it was fine. I didn't actually have to use that ratchet earlier on to loosen it up. I mean, I could have just taken it off that shaft right away, but oh well. It's not like I have a lot of stuff I want to do, but it's not like I was super busy right now. I mean, everything I want to do is going to require some dry weather, some sunlight, so I can get out and maybe working some fences and working my driveway. Most definitely making hay, but I'm almost going to have to go through and admit defeat that we'll probably be trying to possibly make hay when in between harvesting corn and beans this year. The bean head actually is going to be pulled up here this week and gone through. The corn head, I got to go through and grease all of the rows, grease the head, make sure make sure it has oil in the oil baths, and then I have looked into, and I'm probably going to order it tomorrow. I want to put a wedge kit on that corn head. That is the plan. I hate to say that dreaded 4-letter word, but because plans never go away the way you plan them to or you want them to. So you just try to make do with what you can. So as far as corn fodder, I'm hoping we can actually get it done in dry conditions this year. That's a good question to ask. How much, say like last year we were making corn stalk bales, fodder, I call them fodder bales, in wet conditions where it was just crummy out. Where I was actually worried about the bales heating in the bale. I guess I had never really addressed that question, how much putting acid on with fodder bales, if that would really keep the quality in the fodder bales up. I'm more interested in it for hay anyway, but because it'd be nice to be able to stack everything in the shed and not worry too overly much about the quality of the bales or the center of the bales being all burnt up or rotten in the middle when you go to unroll them. So yeah, a 40-minute job done in 14 minutes isn't all that bad. I sped this up by 2, I believe, and I went through and I cut out some of the parts where I was walking around trying to get tools and grabbing tools and parts that I either had lost or I hadn't grabbed yet. Had a little trouble here because the other end of the power takeoff was trying to fall away from me when I was doing this. And relatively simple. I mean, didn't have to fight too much on here, other than the fact I did break a bolt on that. I don't know, it was 6 or 8 bolts that go around the outside, but as always, a good shop always has the spares around, or has some spares around. So, yeah, it's really kind of quiet around here right now. There's plenty of stuff we're trying to do in the machine shed, but I think once harvest and the weather straightens out where we can start doing stuff, it's going to be probably wide open and running around the clock trying to get harvest done, hay done, bales made, put up, and tillage done, and fertilizer applied, and probably come skidding into either Thanksgiving or Christmas this year, as always. So until next time, take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you tomorrow.